Occult logic of repeating patterns. Have you ever noticed how certain situations don't just happen once, but repeat? Different people, different settings, same emotional result, same frustration, same ending. Most people call this bad luck, bad timing, or fate. Occult traditions don't, however. They call this unfinished work. This is why you change jobs, but you're still not satisfied, or change partners, but are still unfulfilled emotionally, or change residences only to find out that you're still unhappy. Across tarot, alchemy, hermetic teachings, and psychology, repetition isn't random, it's diagnostic. It shows where something has not been seen, integrated, or completed. And until it is integrated or completed, it continues to return. So if you want to know about patterns and how to stop repeating certain situations, then this video is for you. Stick around. And if you haven't yet done so, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on esoteric insights and occult knowledge. The tarot is a map of recurrence. The tarot is more than just a deck of cards. It's a map of life's repeating cycles. The Fool starts a journey, moves through challenges, loves, triumphs, and lessons, and finally reaches the World, symbolizing completion. But completion doesn't mean the end. It means a return to the beginning, except only this time wiser. Arthur Edward Waite, in The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, 1910, described the Fool as the spirit in search of experience, not just once, but over and over, until real understanding takes root. That's why the same cards keep showing up in readings. The same themes, the same lessons, just wrapped in new details. It's not random, it's rhythm. Take the Wheel of Fortune. It shows life turning, whether you're ready or not. If you haven't learned the lesson, life brings it back, not to punish you, but to invite you in saying, hey, you're not done with this yet. For example, imagine someone keeps pulling the Lover's card in their readings about relationships, career choices, even friendships. At first, they think it's about romance, but over time, they realize it's actually about choice, especially choosing themselves. Maybe they keep picking partners who don't respect them, or picking jobs that drain them. This card returns again and again until they finally ask, why does this keep happening? That's when the lesson shifts from repetition to awareness. In tarot, repetition means the energy is still active. The cycle isn't closed. The archetype is waiting not for perfection, but for recognition. Alchemy and the return of the work. Alchemy is obsessed with repetition. The old texts never promise quick fixes. It teaches that transformation happens through repetition, return, and refinement, not in one step, but in cycles. The core practice, solve e coagula, means dissolve and coagulate, and can be summarized in alchemical texts as dissolve and congeal again and again, dissolve and congeal until the matter is perfected. This isn't just a lab procedure, it's a spiritual rhythm. Stick with me here, I'll get to an example in just a minute. The Rosarium Philosophorum, a foundation alchemical text, maps this process in 2 cycles of 7 stages, moving from the raw material, prima materia, to the white stone, mastery of the lunar principle, and finally the red stone, mastery of the solar principle, the ultimate symbol of inner gold. Or, in other words, turning raw chaotic material into inner clarity, emotional mastery, spiritual awakening, and strength. Each stage is a cycle of breaking down and rebuilding, like facing the same life challenge over and over until you learn from it. The Emerald Tablet gives us the universal law behind this. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. So what does that mean? It means the inner and the outer reflect each other. If something hasn't changed within, it'll keep reappearing externally. Same lesson, new situation. For example, picture someone working to build self-confidence. They get a new job, feel strong for a bit, then they get some constructive criticism from their boss, and they spiral into doubt. Months later, same loop. This isn't bad luck, it's rhythm. That raw inner fear of failure hasn't been broken down and rebuilt yet. Just like the alchemist working the same prima materia, you have to keep facing this until the core shifts. In alchemy, repetition isn't failure, it's feedback. The cycle returns not to punish, but to perfect. Hermetic law and the role of awareness. Ancient Hermetic teachings reveal the cosmic principle of rhythm, cycles of flow, rise, fall, and return that governs manifestation across all planes, later codified as principle number 5 in the kybalion. Everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. This rhythm operates impersonally, indifferent to consent, swinging like a pendulum between extremes of polarity. Yet Hermetic wisdom offers liberation, not through resistance, but elevated awareness. By ascending to the superior plane of consciousness, one neutralizes the rhythm's pull, poised as the observer beyond duality. Most folks just ride that pendulum swing blind, up and down with the emotions, never spotting the pattern underneath. They buy into it thinking, why does this always happen to me? And they're stuck feeling like a victim. What's the real mastery? Step back, observe, and ask yourself, why does this energy keep looping back? What is the pattern here? Once you see it, you can consciously say no to the automatic back and forth. Carl Jung and the patterns that shape our lives. Carl Jung brought ancient wisdom into modern psychology, teaching that repetition isn't failure, it's the unconscious calling to be seen. He famously said, the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided and does not become conscious of his inner opposite, the world must perforce act out the conflict and be torn into opposing halves. So, what does that mean in layman's terms? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. To Jung, repeating patterns, failed relationships, self-sabotage, chronic anxiety aren't bad habits. They are unresolved inner forces waiting to get our attention. Ignored emotions don't vanish. They return in new forms. Unexamined beliefs repeat until we finally meet them. For example, imagine someone who always ends up with critical partners or bosses. They ditch one, and the next one is the same thing. Carl Jung would have said, look, this isn't bad luck. It's your shadow, that hidden part of you you're ignoring. Your shadow is throwing yourself out there. Maybe as a kid, you learned to shut up your own voice, and now life keeps replaying these scenes to show authority, silence, and speaking up right in your face. Each time it loops back, it's your psyche letting you know you still haven't dealt with this. In Jungian terms, recurrence is initiation. It's a chance to break the cycle by bringing light to what is hidden. So why do patterns persist? Patterns persist because consciousness avoids them. They sit in a blind spot. They require a crossing, an integration, or a choice that hasn't yet been made. Carl Jung put it bluntly, as we saw earlier. Until the unconscious is made conscious, it directs our life and we call it fate. And occult traditions said this long before psychology gave it language. Symbols have always been used as maps in these moments. Tarot images, alchemical stages, hermetic texts exist to show where consciousness is stuck. Repetition isn't the enemy, avoidance is. What breaks the cycle? Cycles don't end through willpower, they end through recognition. The moment a pattern is seen clearly, without justification or self-blame, it begins to lose momentum. The wheel still turns, but you're no longer trapped inside it. That's why clarity matters. Not positivity, not affirmations, but clarity. Occult systems don't promise comfort, they promise orientation. They tell where you are in the pattern, what stage you're repeating, and what hasn't yet been integrated. In conclusion, if something keeps returning in your life, running away won't resolve it. It needs to be understood. Across tarot, alchemy, hermetic thought, and modern psychology, repetition is never meaningless. It's a message that hasn't yet landed. And once it does, the cycle changes, not because fate was defeated, but because consciousness finally caught up. So, what do you think? What patterns do you continue to repeat in your life? We'd love to hear from you. Also, stay tuned for more videos, courses, and reach out for tarot readings or consultations. Until next time.